Hello everyone and welcome back. I'm so excited and I'm joined by my very good friend Mr. James Martin from Baby Giant, as you can see just above his head there. Welcome, James.
Welcome, James. Well, sorry, hello Tom, you all right?
Yes, I'm very well. I really love not only James's style but his whole process, which he documents so well on his Instagram. He's grown an enormous following there, and just how he kind of brings ideas to life is something pretty special. So I'm very excited personally for today's session. I hope everyone else is. Without further ado, James, do you want to kick us off?
Righty, so, right, I suppose I best get the old thingy up. Right, let's do that. So, view, I should probably share my screen as well, shouldn't I? That'd probably be a good idea. Just got to hide all the naked pics of me on my desktop, which nobody wants to see.
That's what draws the crowd, to be honest, mate.
That's what gets the crowd going.
Give the people what they want.
So, can everybody see this? Are we all happy? So
yeah, that's the most Steve I've ever seen you. I love it.
That is my face. This is my face just here. Just to kind of give it a little bit of a breakdown. In fact, I'll just start because we've only got an hour. I think I've already wasted 10 minutes of it, so we best wiggle, I suppose. So, who the hell am I? I suppose just very quickly for anybody that doesn't know me, my name is James Martin, but a lot of people will know me as Made by James on the old Instagram, YouTube, social media and all that kind of malarkey. I'm the owner of Baby Giant Design Co., which is a cool little boutique, little awesome thing based on the south coast of the UK, where we do everything from like web stuff to branding to animation. But me personally, I am, basically now I'm a full-time logo designer, which was always kind of my dream. Growing up as a wee little beardless person, wanting to do logo design all day, every day. And luckily I'm at that stage now. So that's cool. I am also 0.3, a bearded twat, because I think it's important to keep things honest. Which
I promise is not a rude word here in the UK. I know in America it can be.
Is it? Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Bearded twit, I should have said then, or something. I suppose the dream for me is to kind of, now, obviously, being a full-time logo designer, what I am trying to do is, share my knowledge with the people, and try and give back to the community that's given me so much. And I'm trying my hardest to kind of, which is why we're here as well, is to kind of, help some people become badass logo designers. And I'm also a human, if nobody else knew that one. A
bloody good one.
I try. Right, let's go. So this is my mate Robin. He's cool. Ethical brand identity. So basically, this is what I'm going to be chatting about. I'm going to be talking about my passion, and my process when it comes to building brand identities. And especially, this is obviously going to be based around ethical brands that I've worked for. So these obviously fall into that category of planet saving, minimizing plastics and all that kind of weird and wonderful stuff. So we will be seeing Robin again on many other pages, but he's very pretty. So stop babbling, James, and get on with it.
He's got a very nice hat.
He has got a very nice hat. I've actually got that same hat. So what is ethical brand identity? So what I kind of want to highlight first is it's not the process of being ethical. Obviously I still use plastic pens and all that kind of stuff. This is actually more about the industry and the brands that I work with who are ethical in their decision making and their ethos and their values and all that kind of stuff. So when it comes to brand identity, what do we talk about? What do we mean? As like you're saying, Tom, it's kind of starts with the logo, but then the identity can kind of run seamlessly through many different things forever into the future. So basically, your brand identity is a set of like visual assets that help you portray your vibe and your image. You know, and also, you know, I'll go into this a little bit deeper down the road, but that can also go into, you know, the materials you use for packaging, you know, like the bottles I was just showing you, you know, no plastic, you know, all that kind of cool stuff. So I hope I'm still on track, Tom. Let me know if I'm not.
Absolutely. And I think this is it's obviously so much more than a trend. It's the future of our planet. You know, ask yourself, would it make David Attenborough happy when you're designing a brand?
I mean, I saw him the other day. I think the first day we came onto Instagram, he's got freaking, I think he had like 2 million people follow him, and like,
yeah,
and I was thinking of all these social media people who say I've grown 10,000 in 6 months, and I think David Attenborough did 2 million in a day. So yeah, but anyway, that's a totally different thing.
He's a legend, but yes,
he is a legend.
Yeah, this is very apt for 2020 though.
Yeah, I think so, and I think, as you say, I think with the way that things are going, I do believe it will become, you know, generational wise. I think it will be more apparent in our lives as we continue it. The bamboo cutlery, paper, no plastic straws, and all this kind of stuff. It's definitely on the move, and I don't think it is a trend. I think it will be around forever.
100%.
So, why this is an industry I love? I mean, we're kind of talking about the next slide before we've even gone to the next slide, Tom. But just to kind of break it down. So, for me, I mean, I'm very much like you. I like to kind of minimize the amount of plastics I use. Me and my wife are very conscious. You know, we try and be as good as we can. I mean, there's obviously loads of stuff anybody I think can do better, but you know, I truly believe that, you know, it's good for us all to maybe just do our bit. You know, toothbrushes, whatever it's going to be, pens. You know, I got some plasticless pens the only bit of plastic is actually the bit in the nib the other day. So yeah, I mean, this is just a personal thing for me. I'm not trying to be preachy at all, but you know, I think, you know, we only get one planet. It's important to kind of do our bit socially and you know, however which way you want to. And you know, for me, it makes me feel good, you know, knowing that, you know, I'm not contributing to certain bits and pieces does make me feel better. So
yeah.
Here, sir. Here. Right. So what I'm going to basically do now is just talk you through, I thought, like, context-wise, it's quite good to kind of just talk you through my design process. What I'm actually going to be doing is showing you a brand identity, a load of assets I created for a particular project, but just to kind of break down my personal process, because I think as designers, we all have a slightly different process, and it's quite good to hear what other designers do, and I like to hear what other designers do. So hopefully you like hearing what I do. So basically, I like to put my full ass into one idea, and that isn't the donkey, that's my buttocks. So so basically what I do is, right, I mean, Tom will know this very well because we did it with yours as well, Tom. Basically what I like to do is, you know, I like to put my full ass into kind of one idea and one concept rather than kind of half-assing a load of different concepts.
Yeah. You don't say here's 12 to choose from. You say,
no, I mean,
I've made something I think really fits the brief.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, for me, that really, the reason I do that, I mean, as I said, like, everybody's different. My way works for me. It won't work for everybody. And that's what the process is great. So all of our process is different. But, you know, I've worked in an agency before. You know, I've worked with other agencies who employ me to do their logo design, and they want me to work a certain way. But I find this way, for me, what it does is it just helps me be focused on the job in hand. It helps my clients be focused on what's going on. You know, 'cause, I mean, I don't know, I've been there before where you submit 10 logos or 5 logos and they like little bits of every single one, but you'd never be able to marry that into one logo. And I also know, as designers, you know, we see things, I will do a set of drawings and a set of sketches, and I'll know straight away that is a killer idea. I want to take that as far as I possibly can because I think it's brilliant. And what I would have done in the old agency is then had that one like in the middle of the page, slightly bigger, and then just put loads of variations of it, slightly worse around the edge, hoping that they pick the right one. And we've all been there. We've all been designers. But as I said, like what it does is that process helps me be focused on what I need to do and how I need to do it. It also allows my client to focus on what I'm showing them, so they're fully focused on the thing I'm showing them rather than many things I'm showing them, which obviously speeds up the decision-making process and helps, I find, create a smoother client relationship. It makes it more fun, because at the end of the day, you got to remember that they've come to me for a logo, and it's my job. I always say it's my job they've come to me with a problem. It's my job to find a solution, not many solutions. So that's why I always like to do one hits. It doesn't always go in one hit, but
I mean, it has been proven with the whole overwhelm of choice that happens. People forget clients, like human beings in general, get a bit paralyzed when they have too many options to choose from. There's a certain beauty in just, here you go on a platter, here's one thing.
Yeah, that's what I truly believe. As I said, I mean, I think it's impossible to, for example, especially with the way I do my process, I'm trying to tell a story and get a really good chunk of information in there that celebrates. It not only looks cool, but actually tells you more hidden as well. And that's difficult to do in one logo, let alone 10. So as I said, it's just my process, and that's the way I roll. Some won't like that, some will. But it's mine, so don't care. But yeah, move on. So yeah, just kind of briefly. So I mean, another reason why I really, really like this particular industry is because I feel that my style lends itself really nicely to it. Because obviously I do, I'm basically 80% drawing and then finishing off in computer. So, I find, especially through, I mean, as I've gone from a artist to an illustrator to a tattoo designer to, a graphic designer to a logo designer. So drawing's always been a huge part of my life. And I've always had this massive, emotional attachment to the work I create. And I believe that hand-drawn approach also allows my clients to feel there's an emotional attachment. There's a journey to it. There's a reason behind everything. And I think, especially, when it comes to, I'd like to kind of think I can kind of put my hand to anything really logo design. So there's the slightly cleaner geometric stuff that I do. But there's also the rawer hand-drawn stuff that I do, like for Plastic Freedom, whoever follows me, Plastic Freedom, Jungle Culture, Nosh, all these kind of brands that I've worked for. They tend to, in fact, they're all in the ethical space, and that kind of slightly ruffled edge and hand-drawn element to a design, I think, makes it a bit more approachable and unique. So yeah, is everybody understanding where I'm going with everything? If I'm babbling, just tell me to stop.
No, that makes complete sense. This links with I think it was Molly Superthorpe's lettering session yesterday, where we were talking about different typography and how it fit for different industries.
Yeah.
And you're both aligned. You've got this kind of wonderful hand-drawn look, and you're right, it might not fit as well for like a
lawyer,
edge, futuristic, lawyer or cybersecurity or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, clearly you found your groove, I think, in this ethical industry.
Yeah, I said that. I think that's why I love it. And whenever I said, not all ethical brands. I've worked with ethical brands that don't want to go in that direction. They do want that kind of slightly cleaner, pure. I did a brand called Cell Squared, which a lot of you may know, and that was super, super clean, super minimal. Straight line circles, but they wanted to go in that direction. So it doesn't always, you don't always have to do it hand-drawn, wobbly lines, you know, but, you know, I feel that kind of stuff, especially it comes down to personality of the brand and the people that are involved in the brand and, you know, who they are and what they do. So I
Love
shall
it.
carry on, everybody. Sorry.
Love it, I said, absolutely.
Oh,
And
I love you, Tom.
everyone needs to go follow James, because not only are the process shots incredible, but the sheer variety of work. I know we're going ethical today, but you're right. You do have some super clean logos. You've got some really, really kind of more hand-drawn looking ones, and everything in between. So you're definitely not a one-trick pony.
Yeah, I mean that's just a look. I know we're going to go off. I said we'd go off on tangents, Tom. This is going to be all your fault. But you know, this is another thing that I always think as well. I mean, I sometimes worry that, you know, logo designers, you know, niche too far into logo design. You know, they might concentrate on one industry, or they might do a particular sort of style. There's no real problem with that, but you know, you got to remember that our brain is the same. So if we can do a logo for one industry, there's no reason why we can't do it for multiple industries and just change the approach slightly. I think some people feel sometimes too protective of their own, you know, the way of doing things, and they get worried about stepping out of their comfort zones. And you know, comfort zones are dangerous. You know, and I've worked with people who have created logos for a specific industry, and what happens is their logos all start to look the same, you know, because there's only so many variations you can do on a certain theme. So it's just something to bear in mind for everybody listening is, you know, obviously you have to find your style, you have to find your vibe, but don't stop yourself from exploring working within different industries and stuff like that, because you know, I actually find that process helps me create stuff for multiple industries, because I'm always thinking slightly differently and out of the box. I'm not just thinking specific to that industry. So yeah, just a little drop there. I thought this one might be a very cool quick slide just to kind of quickly go through, because it's something that comes up quite a lot in conversation with, you know, my team on Instagram and just in general, is like, obviously, how do clients find me? And by the way, if there's any spelling mistakes in this, I'm sorry, because I am absolutely dross at spelling. So there might be some in here. But just to kind of give you a little bit of a breakdown. So clients generally find me by these 4 main points on the right. So I get a fair bit through social media, and that's just not Instagram. That's obviously, I would put LinkedIn in there, Pinterest, Dribbble, obviously Instagram. I'm not on Facebook and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. And obviously then there's my website. So people contact me through my Made by James website and my Baby Giant website. But these bottom 2 are actually ones that are probably the most effective converters, if that makes sense. So obviously, you know, word of mouth is a huge one, and the best thing about word of mouth is that usually what is happening is I've worked with somebody, their mate has then seen that work, and obviously what they've done is that they've kind of already bigged me up, so I don't have to go through pitching processes, or basically I just tell them, they know that the work I do is good because they've seen it, and that obviously stops. And obviously if you've done a good job for somebody and the process has been good, it's almost impossible to not get that client, obviously unless the prices don't work. So that's a very good point, is like, whatever work you're putting out into the world, make sure it's as good as it possibly can be, because remember, you've been paid to do it. So once it's out there, it's basically free advertising. You've been paid to have your work out in the world. So whatever you put out, just make sure it's banging, because it will work wonders for you for the years to come. And obviously random coincidence, you know, bumping into people at weddings or, you know, pub or whatever, you know, you get talking, and, you know, and so, and that's another thing I wanted to quickly drop in was, you know, when you're out in the world, don't be scared of telling everybody what you do and how you do it, because, you know, putting that confidence out there will get more people to just kind of go, well, I know somebody who needs this, or this person I know needs that. And, you know,
when you're passionate about it, you know, chatting in an excited manner, when someone says, oh, what do you do? And it's not the same boring answer at a dinner party, and you're like, I design logos and brand identities, and you can really kind of speak to that in a passionate way. I think it is interesting to people, even if they're not a creative. It's something a bit different. Like you say, often they have a family member or a friend.
Yeah.
And there's not that many of us. I know there are within this community, but trust me, in like a day-to-day social setting, you're kind of like gold dust. If you're someone that's got the skill set in your social group, you become the default.
Oh, well, I mean, that's the. I mean, I speak. I'm going to do a post about this tomorrow, actually. But there's, and our mate Jan Daruni says this as well. Like, people are always asking me about, how to get clients, and I can't get clients, and where do I get my first client from? And most of the time, your client, one of your first clients will be somebody you know. It'll be a friend. It will be a family member. It will be a friend of a friend or a family friend of a friend. And that's why it's so important. So once you're fully committed to your craft and what you're going to do, shout it from the rooftops. Tell everybody what you do and how you do it, and let them know. If you know anybody that needs this, a logo design, this or this or this, just say, this is what I do. And I say, lo and behold, you'll no doubt within the next week or two have somebody phone you up saying, my mate Tommy has just told my mate Jan Daruni that you do this, and that's how stuff and conversation starts. So put yourself out there with confidence is super important.
Perfect.
Next slide. The design. Robin's back. Look, hello, Robin. So yeah, basically what I'm going to do now is take you through my personal design process and break down the individual stages of what I go through. So, but yeah, basically design process. Let's go. So client interaction. Basically, every single time I go for a project, I ask for two things. That would be a brief and a mood board. The reason I ask for those things is it actually gets the client involved in the process. It gets them properly thinking about their company. The amount of times I've spoken to people and they've told me they do this, and then once they've gone through and written their brief to me, they suddenly think, well, I didn't realize I do this too, or I didn't realize I also do that. And it starts to get them really ingrained in the process. And as I said, also kind of gets them involved. And, this is creating logos and brand identities is such a fun thing to do. And you don't want to kind of rip out any of that fun. And so obviously after I've got that brief and the mood board, I always jump on a call with them. Let them talk to me about their brief, talk to me through their mood board. So I say a lot. I just realized that. I just hear this in my head now. I'll just do it again. So basically what I'm doing there is I'm letting them lead the conversation. And what I'm doing while they're talking to me is I'm making notes. I've already gone through their brief. I've already gone through their mood board. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to pick up on anything else that's really key to building the stuff that I'm going to be building. And another great thing to do on that call is to highlight the way you work. I know a lot of designers kind of get tripped up halfway through a project because the process gets changed and all this kind of stuff. So the one thing I think super valuable to do, everybody listening, is make sure you jump on that call, make sure you talk through the project, and then make sure you talk to them about the process and how you work, because this is obviously before the project generally starts. So if there's any sort of issues, they're going, I was kind of, obviously with me, I do one logo and then we kind of do unlimited revisions from there. But if they're on that call going, I'd quite like to just see your sketches, and I'd quite like to maybe for you to do 5 or 10 ideas, that's the stage where I say, look, that's just not the way I work. This is the way I work. If you're not happy, I can give you back your deposit. It's not a problem. And that has happened before. And that doesn't bother me. Ultimately, I want to be in control of my process and I want to do it my way, because that's the only way I can work effectively. So is that all good, everybody? Thumbs up?
Perfect. And I think it's really important to be quite, professionally and nicely firm with these things, because when you're constantly molding yourself into the client's world, then you can trip up and make yourself quite unhappy, and long term, both of you are going to suffer. When you're saying, as you say, these are my processes and you kind of have to fit into my world in that respect, and I'm the expert here and I'm going to lead you through it, and I know this is what lets me create the best results. I think that's a really powerful thing.
Yeah, very much so. And I think it's a place. I mean, I'm still a young idiot most of the time, but I've kind of got my process down enough where I understand it's so important for me to be in control of the process, because that's how I create the best work. In the past, I've let my process, not recently, but maybe a year or two ago, I'd let my guard down and start to work to how they would want to work, and I would start to not enjoy it. It would be frustrating for me and the client. So it's super important to lay out the way you work, get them to okay that, because if they ever kind of come back halfway through and say, oh, can we just do this? You can just go, look, we said on the call, I don't do that. So let's not do that. So yeah, just a little thing there. So basically we're now on to what I did for, so what I'm going to be talking about is a project I did for a company called Plastic Freedom. So obviously after the call and all that kind of stuff, we do basically, I myself break down what it is I need to create for them to start building their brand identity. And obviously it always starts with, the logo. Once I've kind of completed the logo, I'll then go into a color palette. I'll then start to think, especially when it comes to, I don't know how this happened, but weirdly over the last year, I've just had this massive affection for patterns. I absolutely bloody love a pattern.
I've noticed that.
Yeah, I don't even know where it's come from, and now I feel bad that I didn't do one for you, Tom, because I've just realised that. But
I'm fuming, to be honest.
Yeah, I'll do one tomorrow for you. But yeah, basically, I don't know why it's happened, but I just now have this weird want to constantly create patterns out of logos. It's so weird, but I don't know why I like it. But
lovely,
I do like it.
It's a really nice extension for the rest of the brand.
Well, I think that's what it does, especially when they're going to be using packaging, for example, or even not, even if they're online, they can use, especially with social media and all this kind of stuff, they can use that pattern as, an instantly recognizable asset that they can use however they want, really. So we go through patterns, obviously the packaging and stuff, and how we kind of went on that journey, and then other icon sets and for website and packaging, and then animations, and why I love animations. And I think it's just a really cool way of, adding another layer to an already pretty cool story. I'm trying to think now, what's after animation? What do I do next? So if anybody knows the answer to that, let me know, and I'll give you a $5. So right. So I say a lot of you will probably know my process, but I think it's quite good to kind of break down how I come up with ideas, my process, because as I said, I think it's different for everybody. The reason I love word mapping is because I think it's a super, super quick way of coming up with ideas. You can spend an hour on it if you want. I generally spend 10 to 15 minutes, probably 20 minutes max, just kind of popping down ideas. So basically what I'm doing is I'm going through the brief and then highlighting, so all these circled words are words that I've picked out of the brief. So I always start in the top left with the company name, and then I come off with a few things here, community, save the planet, Beth, who's the owner, oceans, plastic, change, freedom, education, organic, planet dying, ethical, all these are the kind of words that are starting to get me thinking about possibly what I'm going to be doing as an idea. And this is where all the kind of goodness starts to happen. And I say, like, seeing it for me, like seeing it all down on paper, as a dyslexic goofball, it's much better for me to be able to see it down on paper than it is just to kind of have it in my head, because it's also something I can go back to and look at and make sure, because what I'm doing all the way through my process is always relating back to my brief and the mood board and the word mapping stages. So whenever I'm going forward, I'm going, does it make sense? Does it fit? Yes, move on. Does it make sense? Does it fit? Move on. So it's always something to kind of, it's almost like your best mate. You know, it's
I love seeing how you pull ideas out of certain words. Like it really is outside the box thinking. And so again, if the team could link up Made by James's Instagram, it's really inspiring. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of clients work with you as much for your process as for the final outcome.
I mean, that's
being able to see your concept or your business broken down in this kind of mind mapping way is actually really valuable.
Yeah, and that's sorry, I didn't mean to jump in there, Tom.
No,
but that is so, yeah, you will not believe kind of, I mean, when I first started to share my process and share how I worked, and probably, you know, lots of people say you share too much. Do you know what I mean? You're sharing all your secrets away. And I think, you know, I don't see them as secrets because my brain works very differently from another designers and from the next designers and then from the next designers. So even if they take my process and take my ideas, they're not going to be able to think the same as me, if that makes sense. It kind of makes sense to me. But the amount of people who, you know, come to me, you know, through Instagram or through my website or whatever, and they say, I've seen the way you work, I love it. You know, they don't go, you know, they don't often go, I love your logos. They go, I love your process. You know, and I think that's key point. It's such a massive thing. And I think that's why, you know, the power of sharing can actually, if you can kind of get over that hurdle of, you know, in the beginning, I was like, oh, they're going to steal my ideas, or I don't want them to think how I think. But, you know, as I've grown up and I start to give less shit, I actually started to kind of realize that the power of sharing is massive. Is massive in gaining trust from clients, is massive in, you know, helping people, you know, create their own ideas. And, you know, me and you, Tom, might get the same brief and we'll come up with even if we followed my process, we would both come up with totally different ideas. And I think that's the beauty. You know, the process can be whatever it is, but the brain is the most important thing. So so that's why I like word mapping. So a little kind of, you know, drop to anybody listening, you know, if you do, you know, do think about sharing your process, because if a client can see the way you work and really enjoy the process of how you work, and they can see that working for them, you've already kind of skipped a hurdle. Do you know what I mean? So when it comes to the process of working with them, so
you don't have to sell them on it. They're going in with their eyes open and being like, yeah, sign me up. So true, Tom. So true. Sign me up. I like that. Sign me up. Yes. So basically, once I'm good. I know I'm running out of time, Tom, so I'm trying my hardest. So go. So basically, rapid prototyping. This is the kind of process I do straight after the word map. So from the word map, like Tom was saying, what I tend to do is I start to associate ideas, things with words, ideas with words. So basically, once I finish my word map stage, I'm already kind of got a pretty good idea of where I want to go. Like, so initially what I was trying to think with the Plastic Freedom one was a PF monogram of some sorts. I knew I wanted to kind of show knowledge and education. So I was thinking, how can I get some sort of book in there? And I know I wanted to make it a human element to it. So I kind of thought, how can I get that in there? So basically what I do is, you know, I call it no rules, just doodle. So with all these things going through my mind, I'm starting to think, how can I get this information into my logo? I'm not trying to do anything good here. I'm not trying to, you know, perfect anything. All I'm trying to do is just get some kind of concrete, or not concrete, but, you know, semi-cool ideas down on paper to see how they work. And Plastic Freedom was such an amazingly strong name because it says everything, doesn't it? So I was kind of, as I said, I was kind of thinking like I could do some sort of icon and then have Plastic Freedom, but then I thought, why not just celebrate the name and use that as a logo? So I decided to go with a logo type, but hiding elements within the type itself and the letter form. So stacking, you know, having that really kind of playful, wobbly freehand element, which kind of talks about, you know, the ethical side of it. You know, stacking the E's made it slightly interesting, but still legible. You know, and obviously with the O and the M, you know,
the M almost acts as a book, and the little head O behind it is almost like a person reading a book, being educated. So I mean, it's all quite far out.
Cool.
It's all quite far out there, and if I probably never explained it, nobody would ever know about it. But I think that's sometimes the beauty of, you know, a cool logo design, is that every time you look at it, you see something different. So yeah, it has the element of people, and obviously also the you know, the sound. That is actually the sound of nature. So yeah, just look that up. I think that's correct. I think that's what I read somewhere. So
I like it. Well, you said it with enough confidence that
I did. Well, I said it with enough confidence, and then I went back on myself. So I lost confidence in myself. But I'm pretty sure you know, that's why all the yoga people do it, spirituality and all that kind of stuff, because it is the sound of the universe, I believe, or sound of nature.
Whereas nom is the sound of my stomach rumbling.
Yeah, and if you put a T in front of it, it says Tom too as well. So you are the sound of the universe, which is pretty cool.
Very profound concepts.
Yeah. So yeah, at this stage, no rules, just doodles, just go to town. So defining my idea. So I know I've got some good bits happening. So basically what I do is I start to, you know, execute them as well as I possibly can in a sketch. You know, playing with logos, making sure gaps are good, making sure it works. And, you know, the reason I kind of like to, I probably sketch way too much, but I actually really enjoy the process of sketching. I love it. I much prefer to be in my sketchbook than on computer. And I find the more work that I do in the sketchbook actually allows me to spend less time on the computer. So yeah, basically after this stage, because I'm trying to be quicker now, I then go into Illustrator and get it all mocked up and all that shit. So yeah, basically from the word mapping stage, I figured out, okay, what do I want to talk about? What's important? What can I visualize? In the rapid prototyping, I'm starting to think about how I can visualize how I can change these words into visuals, you know, knowledge, book, you know, people, person, you know, and all that kind of cool stuff. So let's go. I keep swearing, Tom. Sorry. Mock that shit up. So
that's terrible. Everyone cover your eyes and ears, please.
Sorry. I should put like some sort of warning on my mouth, which is possible. Not possible. So just like for anybody within like the logo design world, which I'm sure a lot of you here are, you know, the importance of showing your design working is so unbelievably important. There's no point just showing them a sketch or just showing them a flat lay black and white logo mock-up, because what I find that does is it allows your client to use their imagination a bit too much. You know, our job is to try and imagine everything for them to make their decision-making process a lot quicker and simpler. So, you know, especially with Beth, which I'll show you after this, is how the brand identity rolled out. You know, I showed her it working on packaging. I showed the pattern working on tape. I showed, you know, how the signage would work, how the van would look, how this would look. So basically what that does is it allows your client just to absorb everything, you know, and if they have no reason to go, well, it doesn't work there, it doesn't work there, then you're basically onto a winner. And that's why I always kind of go the extra mile with reference to mock-ups. And, you know, sometimes, you know, as I said, like I create patterns because I want to show them the possibilities moving forward, not just like, here's a business card. I want to show them it, you know, and I always tend to do like industry specific based mock-ups. So, you know, if it's a brewery, I'll do cans, bottles, you know, kegs. If it's a coffee shop or a cafe, I'll do coffee bags, you know, cafe signage, all this kind of stuff. So basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give my client no reason to doubt what I've done for them. And I found, you know, if you don't tend to do that, if you just show them an idea on a sketch, what they're thinking is, well, will it work here? Or will it work here? Or I'm not sure it will do this, or I'm not sure it will do that. If you basically tick all those boxes for them, lo and behold, most of the time your kind of concepts will kind of shine through and tend to be winners. Maybe with a bit of tweaking, but you know, it is what it is. Sometimes we have to do that.
I love how you use mock-ups, and you do it with all your case studies. You certainly did it with my logo, and being on the receiving end of that as the client, it's so cool. Like, I'm obviously very familiar with mock-ups with what we do
Yeah.
here at Design Cuts, but it doesn't matter when I'm seeing my logo in a variety of settings. I mean, I'm literally going to get it on this kind of snapback cap that you put it on because it looks
Yeah.
like cool. I never would have thought of that, but it got me 10 times more excited than I already was with
Yeah.
the great logo that you did.
Yeah. So I think it's such a I think it's such an important, it's probably, I'd hazard to say maybe the most important part of the process, selling that idea, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to sell our ideas to our clients. And the only way that we can physically do that is by showing it working in the real world. I say, because if you can jump over that hurdle with ease, then I say 90% of the time your work's going to be a winner. So mock that shit up, basically. Excuse the swear. So as you can tell, just to kind of break down before we kind of go into the deeper identity stuff. So the importance of telling a story. The reason I like to do it is because it makes it more personal to the client. As I said, they've kind of created the mood board, they've created the brief, so they already feel like a relationship with the work because it's all based on their words, which I think is like, because when you're kind of talking through, the process, and once you've sent all this in an email to them, you can say, in your brief, I read this, blah, 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 which is their words, and you've made blah, blah, blah out of it. So basically, it shows you've listened. It makes it more personal. They can relate to it. And I said, if you can get them to be on that journey and that ride with you, it just makes it so much more exciting for them and gets them like hyped up. They want to know more. They want to get it out there because they feel that they've had a hand in playing with it. So that's just a little roundup for that little bit there. So any questions, Tom, on that at all?
No, again, I'm just having been on the receiving end of that. Your passion really comes through. And I think that's such a powerful thing because it's not just this transactional deal happening. You're there being like, and we obviously talked through this and this, and I love this outcome because I feel like it really nails these things. And what do you think about it? Like that again went such a long way for me as the client. And I'd imagine this is within your process. This is probably one of the things which really resonates with all of your clients pretty well.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, because I don't see myself as I work for them. The way I look at it is I work as a part of their team. They've trusted me enough to, come in and be a massive part of their company's life journey. And the same with you. I mean, you trusted me to, to build something that's going to be integral to your success moving forward. I mean, you could have probably done it without that. So, but that's just me giving Tom a little.
No. It's what you do is incredibly valuable there.
Yeah. I think it's such an important thing to be passionate. I know a lot of people say you shouldn't have too much of an emotional attachment to the work you create, but I think creatives, that's one of our superpowers, is that we do get attached to the stuff we do. We do have passion towards the work we do, because otherwise, what's the bloody point? If I didn't like it, I'll go and do something else. Like, I don't know. In fact, I quite like gardening now. I was going to say gardening, but I quite like that. But I'm always out there. There's always something to do, Tom. Daffodils won't look after themselves. Right, next one. Developing the brand identity. So basically now I've showed you how we did the logo, and now I'm going to kind of show you how we rolled it out throughout all the other bits and pieces. So this is a thing that a lot of people tend to talk to me about. How are we doing for time, Tom? I've probably got about 10 minutes left. Is that good?
Yeah, that's absolutely perfect, mate.
Perfect. Yeah. So choosing the right color. This is a question that I get asked a huge amount of times. And to be fair, like a lot of you will know, I'm pretty monochromatic. I'm like a zebra. I quite like doing stuff in black and white because, color's not my massive forte. But sometimes when a project really demands, lots of colors, some projects really demand some sort of color oomph. And so when it came to the Plastic Freedom project, I just started thinking of the sea, and people go, well, the sea's blue and or green or whatever, and I knew with reference to like the audience, a lot. I think maybe 75% of Beth's audience are female, so I knew I didn't want to have anything too masculine or garish, and I found this beautiful minty and dark grey combo to be a massive winner, because it looked freaking cool, and B, it kind of it feels kind. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I mean, I think that's where you can go back to your brief, and you can go back to your word mapping stage, and you can actually pick out words from that brief and from the word map. So I know there was kind. I know obviously the ocean. So I'm starting to think, kind ocean colors. So that's kind of, I hope that makes sense. That's kind of how my brain works.
It does. I think like a lot of the visual concepts that you explore, it makes sense on a lot of levels. And I'd say, I don't want to be reductive, but I think
I don't even know what that means, Tom, to be fair.
Well, when I think of environmental and I think of ethical, I think green in its most basic form. But you're right, it also speaks to the sea. It also speaks to the demographic that it's targeting. So it kind of ticks a lot of boxes.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I mean, color should not just be a random choice, I think. And I think that's why in a lot of my stuff, I tend to, obviously a lot of my clients like black and white, which is great, because they come to me and they see my stuff and it's black and white, a lot of sketching. But the color you shouldn't just be putting color in something for the sake of it. That's what I'm trying to say. If there's real thought, a real clear direction and a reasoning behind a color, run with it, because that's perfect. But if you're like, oh, it could just do with some color. If a client ever says to you it could do with some color, just go, why? Because that's what I've done before. And then they go, good point. So
it would be a bit weird if it was like Ferrari red or something.
Oh, exactly. I mean, especially because color theory is huge, and people react to color in different ways. The same color people react to in different ways. So it's very important that if you are going to use a color, make sure there's a reason behind it, not just a random choice.
I can see from the comments that I'm not alone when I say that little copyright registration mark brings me joy.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm just so glad. I mean, I can't see the comments, so I'm glad you said that. But I've always had this. I've done this with quite a few logos and stuff. I actually try and actually make it a part of the design. Do you know what I mean? So rather than it being just stuck in the top right hand corner in its own kind of ether, in its own space, I actually kind of think like, how can I integrate? Because it's a part. It can be a part of the design. So I love trying to find ways. I recently did it with the jungle culture one. I've done it with the dripping one. Whenever it gets registered, I always try and figure out like, how can I actually do this as a part of the design rather than just an element that's added. Because I sometimes think, you see these beautiful logos, then with a mark right at the top next to it, and you think, I'm kind of being distracted by that. But I'd always try and just have a little bit of fun with it. Because, I mean, we're creators, we can do whatever we want.
Since you mentioned it earlier in the presentation, I can't unsee the O and the M being a little person reading a book now.
That's so great. Cool.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I wanted, Tom. So thank you very much. But it's one of those. I say it's one of those things that it looks like an O. I mean, the beautiful thing is like it reads Plastic Freedom, but it's got so much character. And it, for me, I mean, this is still one of my favorite projects of all time, because every time I look at it, I smile, and I think that is how I want people to feel when they're seeing it too. So yeah, that's cool. That is cool. So pattern creation. Why I love patterns. I don't know why I like patterns, but I do.
They're pretty.
They are pretty. And I think they do give massive scope for your clients to, as I say, especially when it comes to packaging, I I know that Beth uses this. We've actually kind of developed Christmas patterns recently and more generic patterns, building on top of this original pattern for her. And she says people absolutely love it. And what I love about that is they can see the pattern without seeing the logo, a color or anything. And they know straight away when that's dropped on their doorstep, it's plastic freedom. And I think that's the power of like building out these brand identity assets for them, like patterns and other bits and pieces, because I think it's just such a quirky little thing, that you can do just to kind of, as I say, like just go that extra mile. Say instantly recognizable, epic branding asset. And, they don't have to be, boring. You can have real fun with them. And obviously trying to make them tileable and seamless is a good thing as well, because then they can repeat that pattern.
You know what I like to say about going the extra mile, James?
Yes.
Like to go the extra mile because it's less crowded there by definition.
You are
hardly anyone. Hardly anyone goes the extra mile. And case in point, if anyone watching this live got something like this show up at their door, it would make them smile, it would delight them, it would grab their attention, it would grab their eye, because no one's doing it. No one does this. I never get a package that looks like this. I never get stuff that has these little extra touches. So for the sake of just pushing that creative freedom a little bit further, I think you'd be amazed at how much you stand out in doing so.
Yeah. And also don't wait for your, I'm a bit of an idiot, to be fair, because sometimes I do stuff that I'm not even supposed to do. But because I get so like kind of excited about a project, my clients don't ask me to create patterns out of their logos, but I do it. It's not something that I'm paid to do. I just do it for them. And doing little things like that, I always try and think, don't think about the project you're doing now. Think about whether they'll want to come back to you in the future because you've gone the extra mile, you've helped them, you haven't charged them to export another logo, you haven't done all these things. So don't always think about the first job. Think about job 5, job 10, job 20. Because, basically, a logo is usually what I would call the first date. So the first date, do we get on? Yeah, we like each other and all the rest of it. Oh, now we trust each other. Now that then goes on to packaging, and that goes on to website design, and that goes on to SEO, then that goes on to social media campaigns and all that kind of stuff. So whenever you're doing work, don't kind of think of it as like, this is the only thing I'm ever going to do for them, so let's just get rid of them. Go above and beyond. Put your full ass into it, because they'll keep coming back, and that's the beautiful thing. Money for life.
I think that point about the first date is so apt, because often it will open the door to further work, and in many cases a retained client for years. And so it really bugs me when people get very particular about, like, I don't want to lift a finger, I don't want to do a single extra pixel that I don't have to do because I want to squeeze every bit of profit. I think when you slip into that mindset, you're not really opening the door to a great ongoing working relationship, and the client feels when you're passionate and when you want to go the extra mile. It doesn't make you a pushover. You're doing it on your terms. You're not letting them boss you around. But I think it's an extension of your character, James, really.
Yeah, I think it's I know, yes, I could make, as you say, more profit on per project, but I think that's, just kind of reiterate, I think that's not particularly good business sense. And, yes, we are creators, but, we're in here to, initially, as you say, well, you're not making much profit. So it's not very good business sense. But I'm still working with clients that I started working with 10 years ago. So is it good business sense or not? Because they've given me tens of thousands of pounds over the last decade, which all started from a logo.
And you're constantly booked up.
Well, that is the thing, yeah.
So every time I talk to you, you're juggling logo projects.
I must be doing something right. Saves me from sitting on the sofa scratching my balls, Tom. So that's all good. Right. So right.
To that man.
Yeah. So where are we? So So this is you can kind of start to see it in action. So with the color, even the black and grey in the top right, or the grey on grey, you can start to see how all the assets come together to create this beautifully welcoming, fun, energetic, because I mean, that's another thing with like brands like this is like, I never want them to be preachy. Do you know what I mean? So I don't want it to be like, you're using a plastic bottle, you're a twit. It's not about that. We all have our own choices. We all have our own things and ways of doing stuff. So, and that's what Beth really wanted. She didn't want it to be, doom and gloom and like, you're killing the planet, blah, blah, blah. But she wanted to do was celebrate the planet. And that's where we tried to go with this quite kind of light-hearted, jovial kind of, cool geometric shapes with weird little jellyfish and stuff like that, and mountains, and
fun.
Yeah, just fun, make you smile.
I think what I'm hearing here is it's quite a heavy subject, or it can be.
Oh,
so
yeah,
this is a really nice, fun spin on it, which probably is going to engage people better.
But I think that's the most important thing. And as I said, I think there's so much noise in the world. Everybody's always trying to put some sort of opinion on you or their own opinion. And Beth really didn't want to do that. She just wanted to create a brand that she would love to buy herself. And whenever I'm doing logo design or any sort of brand identity, my brain is always thinking, would I want it? That's, it's quite a selfish thing, but my theory is if I like it, there'll be many other people that like it as well. You're not going to get, might be some people watching this who think this is absolute dross. There might be some people out the world that think it's absolute dross, but they're not the client base. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And sometimes, it's not always about the logo. The logo is the kind of communicator, isn't it? It's the kind of how it gets the conversation started. It gives you an asset to create conversations and stuff. But I'm sure we've all bought stuff from people that we don't particularly like their logos. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of, I don't know what my point is with that, but it just came into my head. But it is what it is.
I love these patterns, and I can see everyone else loving them in the chat. I don't know if our creative director Matt is watching this session. I know he's been tuning into a bunch, but he's such a pattern geek, and I know that he would love these because it's quite hard to do patterns and like these kind of simplistic iconography. It's actually harder than it looks. It really is, to kind of give it character and make it interesting.
It is. I mean, there's obviously loads of where you can check out obviously the jungle, but I said like I think it's just important that again that it's relevant. For example, if it was just a geometric shape without any of the kind of nautical or sea-based creatures in it, it wouldn't really, people be going, well, it looks nice, but what does it mean? What's going on? So I think it's always like we were talking about with colors, it's always important for there to be a reason behind it. That's the most important thing. There always has to be a reason, Thomas. Always. So I'm sorry, I'm being very slow. So badass icon creation. So these are some icons that we also did. So as you can see, all handmade, all drawn by hand. So, but also kind of slightly clever. So what we wanted to do was use this heart element as a constant theme throughout the iconography. So for the reference to the vegan symbol, it's a carrot, but it makes the letter V, and it also has it's the vegan symbol, obviously, and then obviously the handmade, made in UK. Then you've got the organic shape, so you've got the apple that also makes the negative space heart make it look like an O, so O organic, V vegan. Beth loves, we've kind of, I say, stuck with that heart theme in the negative space to create the B, and obviously bestsellers and all the rest of it. But now what this means is that nobody else is going to ever have these icons unless they steal them. And the other cool thing is whenever we go to creating more icons, we have a theory and a pattern and an identity to follow. So whenever we're going to create some more, which we will be doing in the future, it's going to be very easy for us to kind of come up with some more because we've already got our theme set. We know it's hand-drawn. We know we're going to be using this heart to cleverly create letters and shapes and all that kind of stuff. So I hope that makes sense and looks cool.
It does, and they're beautiful.
I really like them. I really like them.
Yeah, that's so cool.
So animation awesomeness. Right, how do I get this to play, Tom? There you go. Whee! So The
That's so
reason,
cool.
yeah, so the reason I love working on animations and like, just so, I mean, I used to do all the animations myself. I now actually have a guy who works for me at Baby Giant who comes up with these, and that's another thing I would always say is don't, I mean, I think I'm probably up there with, you know, some logo designers. You know, I think I'm pretty good, but I'm also not too hot and you know, at really cool animation. I can do animation, but it's not really my kind of go-to thing. So what I decided to do about 6 months ago was. So about six to 8 months ago, was actually get an animator on board because I was getting so much traction with animation that I just couldn't handle doing all the animation myself and all the logo design and running a business and running other businesses. It just wasn't happening.
Power of delegation.
So yeah, the idea behind this was to, you know, that kind of wet, bouncy, moisture, ripples, and you know, I'll keep playing again because I like it as well. But you know, so the reason I like animations is because they kind of add another level to the story. So this is celebrating everything that we've grown to date in a logo animation. As I say, like celebrates the sea. It's fun, it's bouncy, it's vibrant. You know, it's just I mean, it just makes me smile. And what the thing I like about animation, sorry to digress, is obviously they're great for YouTube. I mean, that's the reason why I don't tend to put any music over my animations, is because I know people will eventually have them, you know, running on their own intros or outros or with their own music. And I know a lot of people do like the musical or the kind of sound effects element to it, but I let my clients kind of do that. I just concentrate with my animator, like just getting like the visual representation and visual feel of the brand correct. And I just love them. I say it adds another layer to the story. We'll do it one more time before I go on to the next slide, because people are probably now sick of it. I probably shouldn't have done that, but it's all right. Never. So yeah, that's why I love doing animations, because it just adds another layer of coolness. And you know, people like stuff wiggling. You know, I can't say what I was gonna say. But I've got to remember there's loads of people listening, not just Tom. So yeah, so packaging perfection. As you can kind of see, we can start to see how the colors, the patterns, the logo, everything is just seamlessly, this identity is seamless. You got to remember that we started at the beginning of this chat with absolutely nothing. You know, it was a brief and it was a mood board
and then a few words.
And a few words, exactly. And now we've gone from word mapping to rapid prototyping to defining idea to creating our logo to making our color palette to creating our pattern, all the way through to all of these other elements, animations, packaging. You know, and this is the power of a brand identity. Because it all looks, you know, I would like to think in a few years, or even possibly now, because this has been going for a couple of years now, that people will just possibly even see the color and they'll know it's plastic freedom. You know, people just relate things to companies and to, you know, as I said, it just continues that storytelling element. You know, so it's interactive. People, as you say, would love to receive this on their doorstep. You know, even on the tape that she uses, you know, it's all plastic-free tape, paper tape with, and obviously she just wraps all of the stuff inside it. I know inside she's got like tissue paper as well with the pattern on it. So it's this continuous, you know, there's nothing worse, I find, that, I mean, you know, I love little treats. You know, when you open a box and it says like a little mantra in it, I get real jizzed up about that kind of stuff, because it's that extra detail that they've decided to put in. You know, rather than just putting a box and a logo on it, you know, there's these layers that keep continuing, and it just makes you fall in love with the brand and go back, which is the whole point of everything, isn't it? So, Tom, you'll be pleased with me. This is my rude not to conclude. So yeah, basically just kind of going through everything that we've just chatted about. So process, client interaction is so key, you know. Get on that call with them. ask them for a mood. Well, this is based on my process. Ask them to get involved, get them to put a brief together, get them to put a mood board together, because then you know it's from them. And it's like, that's why I don't tend to do stylescapes, because it's kind of my vision of what they want. If they show me a mood board and give me a brief, it's all on them. It's all their words. Be super transparent, you know, tell them this is how I work. This is how the process is going to work. This is how much, you know, this is my price. This is, you know, these are my terms and conditions, you know, all this kind of stuff. So constantly being transparent about your process and how the way it's going to work. Sell your vision. Probably the most important thing that I think so many designers underestimate is get that stuff mocked up, share, you know, your vision of how you see it working in the world and how it can work on different bits and pieces, and always make your vision industry specific. You know, do your general business cards and your signage, but then push it into something that they're actually physically going to use. And then finally, just make sure it's banging. Do you know what I mean? Just make sure that is kind of important. Just make sure it's good. And, you know, at the end of the day, I mean, you guys all know I'm super honest about my design world and my life. You know, sometimes the stuff that I do isn't right for the client. Sometimes my projects don't always work out. But I know that I've put 100% effort into them to make them work. And if me and the client don't meet up on that, then I can sleep well knowing that it's okay. Do you know what I mean? I mean, at the end of the day, life is life. We're not going to impress everybody. We're not going to smash every logo out the park, because life just doesn't happen that way. So just whatever you're going to be doing, just make sure you put your full ass into it, you know, and just have fun, Tom. Just have fun. And that is me. That is me. Shall I stop sharing now?
Yeah, go on. Let's welcome you back to the room. I think that deserves a little mic drop on your part. That was epic. Thanks so much, mate.
God, I don't think I've talked for that long and ever. Yeah. Cool.
Incredible. Let's give it up for James. What an amazing session. We'd love to have you back, James. Of course,
I'm always here, mate. You know, there's no worries about that. So if anybody does want to get, you know, if anybody has got any questions that me and Tom, well, I haven't answered because I went on for too long, DM me, email me. I'll get them all answered.
Amazing. All right. Thank you so much, mate. We really appreciate you being part of this event, and thanks for such a great session.
No worries, Thomas. See you later.
All right.
Enjoy Christo.
Yes, and I look forward to us going on a country walk soon and grabbing a gin and tonic.
Holding hands in the forest. It's going to be delicious.
Exactly.
Right. Take care, dude. Thanks, everybody.